ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into another edition of Keytown Sports. It's Keytown coming back to talk about the very intriguing Monday night NBA slate of games. Most of these games, with the exception of the first game I'm going to be covering, came down to the wire. And also, the NBA playoff positioning has started to heat up. Most of these teams now they only have at most 15 to 17 games. So we getting down to the nitty gritty time. So I'm not gonna waste any more time. The first game I'm going to cover is the Miami Heat and the New York Knicks. So last night, the Heat and Knicks they had a very close game, and then the bottom fell out of the barrel when it come to the Miami Heat because when you look at their starters last night, you got Duncan Robinson with 22 points, High, Haywood Highsmith with two, Bam Adebayo with 12, Tyler Hero with 20, and Jamie Jaquez Jr. with 6. So the starters they really didn't do much, but we keep on hearing this term called heat culture, and heat culture. I'm gonna tell you that is pretty much going out the door because right now, as we fast forward to the NBA standings as a whole, as the NBA standings as a whole, thank you, as NBA standings as a whole, the Miami Heat are 10th in the East right now, and they are on. They could be very well on the outside looking in. They are at that last play-in tournament spot. The New York Knicks is obviously the number third spot in the East, and we know that the New York Knicks they are a good team, but they're not a great team. When it comes to them playing against top-notch competition, when we talk about Boston, Cleveland, Oklahoma, Houston, LA, Denver, Memphis, Golden State. They have all lost. The Knicks have lost all of those games. Those 7 games against top-notch competition, they are 0-7 point with a point project with a average points per game 97. What that means is they score 97 points against Cleveland, against Boston, and against the top-notch competition in the Western Conference. So, back to the Heat. The Heat in this case with this roster right here, with this roster, you're not gonna get very far. I mean, the bench you have Kyle Anderson 7 points, Khalil Ware 10 points, Davion Mitchell 12 points, Terry Rozier 0 points, and Pelly Larson 4 points. The Miami Heat is not the same team that we are used to seeing at this point in the play. I mean, in the regular season. They are 10 games under 500. They have 15. Yeah, they have 15 more games before the end of the season. So, as far as the Miami Heat, they almost have to win out to even keep pay to even keep hold of that play-in tournament spot, which they are number 10 right now. But even if they are lucky enough to get into the play-in tournament, who do you go for reliable scoring outside of Tyler Hero? Now, Tyler Hero, he has been one of the consistent factors when it comes to the Miami Heat. I've seen this player have games where he scored 45 and 15, and then he had games last night where he scored 20 and 2 or 20 and 3. So, the Miami Heat, best case scenario for them, they are a first round exit. They are gonna have a first round exit, and the worst case scenario is they lose in the play-in tournament and don't even get to play in the playoffs, because that's what it's looking like. Because with this, with this, the starting lineup and the bench lineup, you're not gonna get too many games in the playoffs. You might not even get one game in the playoffs if the Miami Heat do play. Now, the New York Knicks, we all know the New York Knicks is one of those teams that has stayed in the thick of things throughout the entirety of the season. You look at their core players. Mikal Bridges, he had 28 points. OG Anunoby had 9. You had Karl Anthony Towns with 23. Miles McBride with 10. Josh Hart with 12 points, but he's mainly out there for defensive purposes only. Now, we look at the New York Knicks. They are at the number 3 spot, and all things are pointing to them playing the Detroit Pistons. But I want to talk about the New York Knicks as a whole. There has been there have been rumors, and I've been saying this over the last couple of weeks, that Tom Thibodeau, he doesn't emphasize the bench enough in the regular season, which he doesn't. And I've been saying that since I started this show over the past year and a half, almost 2 years, and I've said that on my other show for almost the past year. Now, Tom Thibodeau, he is a good coach. I am not being disrespectful when it comes to his coaching resume. But somebody needs to ask Tom Thibodeau, can you emphasize your bench players in your rotation in the regular season? Can you? Because you got Josh Hart. Josh Hart, he played 29 minutes. You got Miles McBride playing 29 minutes. You got your starting five, their average minutes, that they are playing is 28. Not to mention you have Miles McBride and OG Anunoby playing over 30 minutes, and they've played over 30 minutes over over 40 games this season already. So Tom Thibodeau, he doesn't emphasize and he doesn't value his bench players. You can see that his bench players you see Prince Achua, he had 10 minutes. Aten Watson had 3 minutes. Mitchell Robinson, he had 24 minutes, excuse me. Cameron Payne had 19 minutes. Landry Shamet had 25 minutes. Tyler Kolek had 3 minutes. And Pacome Diet had 3 minutes. And let me tell you, when it comes to the New York Knicks bench, see, this is why they have one of the worst benches in the NBA, and that's why when it comes to the New York Knicks in the playoffs, they are not dependable outside of their starting lineup. When you see Princess Achua, Precious Achua having 4 points, then Aiden Watson having 2 points, Mitchell Robinson having 10 points, Cameron Payne having 7 points, Landry Shamet having 9 points, Tyler Kolek having 2 points, and Pacome Diet having 0 points, you're not going to get very far with this bench lineup as far as the New York Knicks. So that's why I say we are going to see another New York Knicks, basically maybe first or second round exit. But like I said, if they play the Detroit Pistons, it is going to be a tough outing for the New York Knicks, because the Detroit Pistons, they are no slouch now. And I want everybody to put more recognition on the Detroit Pistons, because like I said, and I'm going to put more recognition on the Detroit Pistons too. It's not just everybody. I want everybody to do it, because what the Detroit Pistons have done from last year to this year, it's a great improvement from a fan base standpoint, because the fan base, their fandom was wavering last year. Now You have a team that's a playoff contender. As of right now, the Detroit Pistons, they are in a three-way tie for fourth place in the Eastern Conference. So that's all I have for the Miami Heat and the New York Knicks. The next game I'm going to cover, which is one of the games that everybody was surprised that went down to the wire last night, was the Indiana Pacers and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, Indiana Pacers, they are right now, they are getting their playoff lineups ready. But last night their starters, they had a good game. Obi Toppin, he had 34 points. Jarris Walker had 13 points. Thomas Bryant had 10. Andrew Nabar had 12. And Benedict Mathurin had 22. So Obi Toppin, he has been that third guy that has been in the starting lineup outside of Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner. Now, let me tell you, Obi Toppin is the decoy for the Indiana Pacers, just like he was last year. Now, the Pacers, they were fortunate to get to the Eastern Conference last year. Can they get to the Eastern Conference this year? Boy, it is going to be tough because now, as of right now, as far as the standings concerned, they would be playing the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round. And when it comes to the Indiana Pacers bench, I more than likely they have a better bench than the Milwaukee Bucks. So that's from the Pacers standpoint. Now, as far as their bench concerned, they got to get better with their bench. You had Eric Freeman, 0 points. He did play. He did play, but he didn't shoot. He didn't shoot any shots. You had Tony Bradley with 12 points. You had T.J. McConnell with 11, Ben Shepherd with 3, and Quentin Jackson with 13. So pretty much Pacers have an average bench, but I have seen the Pacers bench over the last couple of years when it comes to playoffs raise their bench production. So that's pretty much what the Pacers fan base have to bank on this time around, because we all know that when it comes to Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner, we know that they are going to come on with their 1-2 punch. But now it's out. Now it is on. Now it is on those other guys to be a decoy. You may necessarily might not be Obi Toppin may not be Obi Toppin every night, but to at least have a third and fourth legitimate score, that's what you are going to need in the playoffs. So that's all I have for the Pacers. Now, the Minnesota Timberwolves right now, they have been hovering in that 7th spot for most of the season. Now, when we get to them, the starters, you have Julius Randle, 17 points. Jaden McDaniels, 13 points. Rudy Gobert, 3 points. Mike Conley Jr., 9 points. And Anthony Edwards, 38 points. Now, Anthony Edwards cannot always take over games, because the opponents that they are going to be facing is going to emphasize stopping Anthony Edwards, and not just stopping them, because you can't really stop them, but neutralizing them. That's why Julius Randle, Jaden McDaniels, and Mike Conley, they are going to step up. Now, Rudy Gobert, he is just going to be there strictly for rebounds. That's all. So, but as far as now, bench production last night did great. It did great. Naz Reid, 21 points. Dante DiVincenzo, 19 points. Nickeil Alexander Walker, 8 points. And then you had Jalen Clark to round out the bench production with 2 points. So Minnesota Timberwolves, right now they are at the 7th spot. Indiana Pacers are right now at the 5th spot. Let's see what can happen, because when it comes to both conferences, at this point in the race, you have the most is 15 to 17 games left, and the Minnesota Timberwolves, they are on the outside looking in as far as like a playoff spot. But if they were to stay where they were at, if they were to stay where they are at right now, they would be playing a play-in tournament game against either the Clippers, Sacramento Kings, or the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I'm going to get to the Sacramento Kings later on in the show, but as of right now, for the Minnesota Timberwolves, they cannot have any more. They can't have any more slippage. They can't, because it it's gotten to a point where this late in the season, if you have slippage, if you lose 2 or 3 games, especially in the Western Conference, that's the difference between you playing being a higher seed or being a lower seed. So the not Memphis Grizzlies, but the Minnesota Timberwolves, right now they are right above water. They're trying to keep their heads above water when it comes to playoff positioning and as far as seeding concerned, because seeding is very critical for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And if you get a higher seed, you'll have home court advantage. The next game I'm going to cover is the Denver Nuggets and the Golden State Warriors. Now, the Golden State Warriors, in the past 15 games, they are 12-3. The Denver Nuggets, the Denver Nuggets, they are at the number 3 spot, and the Golden State Warriors are at the number 6 spot. Most things are pointing to right now is Denver Nuggets and the Golden State Warriors playing. If the playoffs start today, the 3-6 matchup in the Western Conference would be Denver and Golden State. Now, let's fast forward. Let's rewind back to last night's game. The Denver Nuggets starters last night. You had Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon had a great game last night. He had 38 points. Hunter Tyson had 9 points. Peyton Watson had 13 points. Michael Porter Jr. had 21 points. Russell Westbrook had 12. Aaron Gordon, this is the first 30-plus point game he has had in 7 years. The last time he had a 30-plus point game, he was with the Orlando Magic. He was. So, the Denver Nuggets starting 5, I don't have no problem with. Last night, Nikola Jokic didn't play because load management and rest. That's what they were giving him. Last night, as far as the Denver Nuggets, as far as bench per se, Zeke Naji 7 points, Spencer Jones 6 points, Vakako Kankar 5 points, Jalen Pickett 3 points. So Denver Nuggets bench, you all know how I've been feeling about the Denver Nuggets bench all season. Let's see what the Denver Nuggets bench can do in the playoffs. Can they rise above what they've been doing as far as just doing the bare minimum when it comes to bench production? And basically, some games in the playoffs, your starters are not going to have it as far as when it comes to shooting. Every game they are not going to be on that P's, Q's, A's, B's, and C's. And also, they are not going to be on their X's and O's. But one thing, if you have a reliable bench that can sometimes carry the load when it comes to when it comes to playing your opponent to a particular intensity, and also we already know that the Golden State Warriors, they like to monk games up. We know that. The Denver Nuggets, they like to monk games up. But when it comes, let's see how they can do that in the playoffs playing against each other. I hope that the Nuggets and the Warriors play each other in the playoffs, because that would mark that would be great for NBA ratings. It would be. Now let me fast forward over to the Golden State Warriors. Golden State Warriors, like I said a few minutes ago, the last 15 games they are 12-3. Last night, Draymond Green, 10 points. Jimmy Butler, 23 points. Quentin Post, 4 points. Steph Curry, 20 points. Moses Moody, 9 points. I like what the Golden State Warriors are doing, and let me tell you, that was the best thing they did, picking up Jimmy Butler before the trade deadline, because that has opened up lanes for Steph Curry, because before Jimmy Butler made it to the Warriors, you had Steph Curry averaging 35 points, 10 assists almost. He did that for about maybe 10, 15 games straight, and he was basically carrying the team. But now you have offensive cohesiveness outside of Steph Curry. Now, let's see what the Warriors can do. And as far as bench production last night, Jonathan Kuminga, he had 13 points. Kevon Looney had 6 points. Guy Santos had 0 points. Buddy Hield had 2 points. And Gary Payton had 18 points. Let me tell you, the Golden State Warriors will not be a pushover. If they play the Denver Nuggets, I believe that this series, potential, and I'm using quotation marks, potential playoff series could go at least 6 games, maybe 7, because I think that the Denver Nuggets, that there have been some cracks in their foundation over the past couple of weeks. Last week, the not Memphis Grizzlies, but Minnesota Timberwolves, they played the Denver Nuggets, and Nikola Jokic, he played 35 plus minutes, and the Denver Nuggets players, they were gassed. I mean, and this is them playing at home. This is them playing at home in Denver, in the Mile High City, where the altitude is 1,574 feet above sea level. So the air is very thin. And when you have a team that is used to that altitude, all of a sudden questioning their conditioning, and they are being gassed before the fourth quarter starts, that is something to keep in mind going into the playoffs. So Denver Nuggets, they still a good team, have a few cracks in their foundation. The Warriors, nobody is expecting them to do much. The Warriors are playing with house money. They are the underdogs going into the playoffs. They are. That's all I have for the Denver Nuggets and the Golden State Warriors. The next game I'm going to cover is the Memphis Grizzlies and the Sacramento Kings. The Sacramento Kings won this game last night, and now they are currently still at the 9th spot. They are 34-33. The Memphis Grizzlies are at the 5th spot right now. So, like I said, standings in the Western Conference and Eastern Conference are going to fluctuate over the next 3.5 weeks. So, the Memphis Grizzlies last night, Jaren Jackson Jr., 12 points. Jalen Wells, 14 points. Zach Edey, 12 points. Luke Kennard, 8 points. Desmond Bain, he had a great game last night, 44 points. And Ja Morant, he was out for load management and rest. So this is not the Grizzlies' complete starting five, but Desmond Bain, he has had a good season, and basically when Ja Morant goes out of the game, Desmond Bain, he leads that second unit. Now, now as far as bench production for the Grizzlies last night, Brandon Clark 15 points. Then you had Lamar Stevens and Jay Huff. They both had 0 points each. John Kennard had 8 points. Vince Williams Jr. had 2 points. And Cam Spencer had 7 points. So, as far as the Golden State, excuse me, not Golden State, but as far as the Memphis Grizzlies, they are a team that's just based off of hype. That's all they are, based off of hype. And the last couple of years, well, with the exception of last year, the couple of years prior to that, they were making the playoffs, but they couldn't get past the first or second round. And from the looks of it right now, if they did play in the playoffs, they would be playing the Lakers. Right now, if the playoffs started today, they would be playing the Lakers, and the Sacramento Kings would be in the play-in tournament facing either the Dallas Mavericks, LA Clippers, or Minnesota Timberwolves. So this is a very critical time for both teams. Now I'm going to fast forward to the Sacramento Kings. Last night, Sacramento Kings, they pretty much had an average. They pretty much had an average game between both of their players. You had Domantas Sabonis had 6 points. DeMar DeRozan had 22. Keegan Murray had 16. Zach LaVine had 23 points. Malik Monk had 28 points to round out the starters for the Kings. The bench production has been inconsistent, to say the least, when it comes to the Sacramento Kings. Trey Lyles, 5 points. Jake LaRivia, 12 points. Isaiah Crawford, 1 point. 1 point. You're not going to win very many games when you have a bench player coming off the bench and scoring 1 point. But the Sacramento Kings was lucky last night. You had Jonas Valanciunas with 8 points. Then you had Devin Carter with 2 points. And then you had Keon Ellis with 9 points. So, Sacramento Kings, they are a worst case scenario, below average team. Best case scenario, a slightly above average team. Memphis Grizzlies, what you gonna do in the playoffs for us? Because we have been putting y'all, the Memphis Grizzlies stock has been all the way up here, has been one of the top in the NBA, but every year they have let us down. Now, they have let us down. Now, when it comes to Sacramento Kings, they might be a team that might make the playoffs, but I don't have much stock in them. And that's all I have to say for the Memphis Grizzlies and the Sacramento Kings. The final game that I'm going to cover is the San Antonio Spurs and my Los Angeles Lakers. Los Angeles Lakers, we feeling good right now. We on 2-game winning streak. We won versus the Phoenix Suns, which is a bad team. And then last night we won over the San Antonio Spurs, which is also a bad team. Victor Wembanyama, we need you to get better because we know that you are a historical talent and we need you back out there on the court as soon as possible. Now, the San Antonio Spurs. San Antonio Spurs. Last night, Harrison Barnes, 7 points. Bismack Biyombo, 4 points. Chris Paul, 9 points. Devin Vassell, 17 points. Steven Castile, 23 points. That's the starters. Now, the San Antonio Spurs, next year, we need to see them in the playoffs. Next year. The bench production last night for the San Antonio Spurs was pretty much, average at best. You should expect that from a team that's not going anywhere. Sandro Shalavi, 10 points. Oh, that's a name to say. Julian Champagne, 6 points. Jeremy Schoen, 15 points. And Keldon Johnson, 11 points. Blake Wesley, 7 points. Now, for the San Antonio Spurs, they are building towards the future. Next season and the season after that, they should be a force. They should be a playoff contender. Now, let's look at my Los Angeles Lakers. You had Austin Reeves, Hillbilly. You had Austin Reeves last night scoring 30 points. They call him Hillbilly Kobe for a reason, because Hillbilly Kobe can catch fire anytime. He can catch fire anytime. So Austin Reeves had 30 points. Dorian Finney-Smith had 15 points. Jackson Hayes had 9 points. Luka Doncic had 21 points. Jordan Goodwin had 15 points. LeBron James, he did not play last night. He is still nursing an injury. Later on this week, he should be back. If not later on this week, early next week, he should be back. And as far as the bench production, Jared Vanderbilt, 2 points. Christian Coloco, 4 points. Gabe Vincent, 11 points. I hope that he has got better from his shooting slump. Shake Milton, 2 points. Bronny James, 3 points. Bronny, he got him a 3 last night. Dalton Knecht, 13 points. Now, what is critical for the Los Angeles Lakers is Dalton Knecht coming off the bench, and in the playoffs, he needs to average 15 to 20 points. That's what he needs to average. 15 to 20 points. You got Jared Vanderbilt out there for defense. Then you also have Rui Hachimura coming back. And then you have LeBron James coming back. Can the Lakers go all the way to the championship and win that elusive 18, banner number 18? Can they do that? Because I see them. I see them as a team that can really do that. We know that we have Denver, and Denver, they have given us problems over the past few years. Then you have Houston, a young up-and-coming team, but I'm not sure if they are ready yet. And then you have the team that has had experience over the last 3 years making it to the playoffs. You got the Lakers. Then you got the Memphis Grizzlies. Then you have the Golden State Warriors. And the top six is very, very critical. Basically, if the Lakers can stay top 4 or better, they will have home court advantage. Now, remember, about 3 weeks ago, they were second in the West. Then late last week, they were 5 in the West, and now they are 4th in the West. So eventually, they are gonna have to go on a winning streak. And let me tell you, in both conferences, teams that are trying to make a playoff push, they can't lose too many more games. They can't. Now, as far as the play-in tournament teams for both the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference, I'm going to start off with the Eastern Conference first. You have Atlanta, Orlando Magic, Chicago Bulls, and the Miami Heat. Those 4 teams, they cannot lose no more than 3 to 4 games. If they lose 5 or more, they are out of the playoffs. were out of the play-in tournament conversation. And for the I keep on saying Memphis Grizzlies. Damn it. The Minnesota Timberwolves, LA Clippers, Sacramento Kings, and the Dallas Mavericks, they are in the play-in tournament. And let me tell you, Dallas, Dallas is not going to make the playoffs. From what I'm hearing that they might have to. This is just speculation. They might have to forfeit the rest of the season because they only have 8 guys on their roster, and they can't pick up anybody else on the team until April 10th. So Dallas, they are out of the play-in tournament altogether. Not to mention that the Phoenix Suns, they are a game back of the Dallas Mavericks for that final play-in tournament spot. So eventually that is going to change either tonight or tomorrow. And with that, those are my reactions to the Monday night NBA slate of games. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, click the notification bell to get notified of all of my reaction videos, shows, and content. Also, March Madness for the women and men start later on this week. So you wanna hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and you want to be up to date on all that happens with the Memphis Grizzlies. Not the Memphis Grizzlies, but March Madness. And you want to be up to date with everything that's happening in the NFL and in the NBA, because over the next couple of weeks we have March Madness, then we have the NBA playoffs, then we have the NBA finals in June, not to mention we have the NFL draft in late April, which will happen late next month. So we have a bunch of sporting events to cover on this channel, on Keytown Sports, and on my other page, Key City Sports. So you do not want to miss any of the content that I have in store for all of you, my audience out there, wherever you may be listening and however you may be watching. I see where we have viewership from over 35 countries. Thank you to everybody that watches every day. And also, thank you to everybody that watches my other show, Key City Sports, every day. So, one last thing. Remember, the key is always on time.